Okay. Hello. Welcome to Oral Hygiene. It is the podcast where we talk about educational, experimental, caught documentaries, things like that. This is Matt. With me today is Andrew Shearer. Howdy.
Hi. I meant to bring some up with you, man, because today's Roger Corman's birthday. He's 95. You went and did a deep cut. You said Corman Rogers.
Yeah. He
That is
makes the world's dullest films. Actually, Andy Warhol did that for real though. So
no, I
Empire.
know. We didn't know we didn't know that back then.
Nah, Corman Rogers didn't touch Andy Warhol's Empire. Was it 9 hours of the Empire State Building? A
Yeah, no.
static, not a static shot. It is technically moving, but nothing's happening.
Yeah, no. This really jogged my memory. I'd totally forgotten about that. Um, we must have been, like 11 years old or something like this, making these, some of our many SCTV inspired home videos where we played many different characters. Corman Rogers was a filmmaker that made the world's most boring movies, and the joke was he would describe these really awful things, and the punchline was, he was a very like mellow dude, like really low key, and you as the interviewer would always do some asshole thing to make him have a heart attack.
Yeah, that's fine, but the jokes really. I think the jokes and the concept, like the paint was drying, and I thought someone needs to capture this.
Yeah, yeah. No, he was really kind of the Jack Handy or Bob Ross of filmmaking.
Yeah. Anyway, are you ready for some agony?
Oh yeah, yeah. Quick turn of things. Oh, this is Highways of Agony, 1971, and this is just literally dead, wrecked cars and dead bodies after another, after another, after another. The movie is poorly structured though because it's driven by this, and so they're beholden to the random footage that they've got. It is propelled by, you said he gets snarkier as the thing goes, and I agree with that. The narrator, and also the scary, you called it Carnival of Souls score. It's very
Yeah,
gloom,
I'd say it
but
had the blood feast timpani.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that was perfect. That was perfect. This, yeah, I wanted to see one of these. They are the highway or scare films, but not the driver's ed kind like we watched, where that was more like also kind of a drug scare, even though it was about alcohol that we saw. I can't remember the name of it, but it
It
was,
was the last
it,
prom.
the last prompt. Yeah, so I was like, let's just do a straight up and down one of these, hardcore driver's ed scare movies where it. But I had no idea, and if I'd known honestly, dude, I wouldn't have picked this one. This is real dead people.
Yeah, this is like past the faces of death. That's the Ohio
Yes.
State Patrol. Most of these films are made by the Ohio State Patrol. It's like they were really into that shit.
Yeah,
They're,
I've got
they're
a.
bad men on their staff.
Yeah, they no. Well, they what they do is they would employ freelancers, and a freelancer was a guy with a camera loaded with film. Phone might wake them up at 10 o'clock at night or something like that in the middle of the night, and they're like, "Hey, Jim, there's a wreck. It's really bad. Go check it out." And he would just go film, and they would let him. And sometimes they'd ask him for help. They'd be like, "Hey, man, can you put down the camera?"
Hey, there's people in the background. I know. That's why we're doing this now. She told me not to forget the dentist.
Oh yeah,
Never forget the dentist.
or
Okay.
or the dentist part too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would get a call in the middle of the night sometimes, and they'd be like, "There's an accident. Come film." Highway Patrol would ask him over, and then sometimes, yeah, he'd be enlisted to have to help with the efforts if they needed an extra hand. But there sometimes what they saw was literally so horrible they couldn't even film it, and they
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Because we did Signal 30 a few months ago, which is an earlier iteration of this, also quite hardcore. But this one, I don't know. Yeah, I guess by the 70s they'd been gotten a little more emboldened.
So this is worse than Signal 30, which is usually the most notorious people cite.
I think because Signal 30, one, it does have the narration is snarky throughout the whole thing for that one. The
Yeah.
guy is just like from the get go. Whereas this one, at first, I was like, oh, this guy is just like, he's a cipher. But then it does start coming through as I mentioned. So I guess that's the
Yeah.
only way you can respond to seeing like snuff footage over and over.
Yeah, no, you use the title Faces of Death, and I totally agree. And that was the thing I thought about while watching this. In the 80s, Faces of Death became very, very popular. And at one point they had to prove in court that most of their footage was faked because they were being charged with, like snuff and exploitation and all this other stuff. Trafficking in snuff, was people getting busted for renting them. And and then later there was the Traces of Death, which used like actual old newsreel footage of dead people set to metal music that like a lot of metalheads and death metalheads would buy. But this is the real. I mean, this is realer than Faces of Death, man.
No, my specific note here was, is this like death or just fake faces of death? But I was thinking, I am hoping in one of those court cases that the producer stood up and said, "Sir, if exploitation is a crime, consider me guilty."
Well, on the one hand, you go like, okay, well, showing people this is really rough and it's a traumatizing experience. And yeah, maybe it will make people think to be safer on the road. But on the other hand, you're going like, okay, so these people are dead. Some of these people were dying or dead. You mentioned the girl with the broken jaw who is kind of gasping for air, and that was awful.
It's like, hey, you're not helping her, are you? You're just filming her.
Well, I mean,
Not that.
he's probably trying to stay out of the way of the people that
Yeah,
are, but
exactly. I mean, what would you
doing
actually do
him
to help
on
in that case anyway?
yeah, that was hard. That was the worst, I think, for me watching it, that particular thing.
Well, that's because
But
most of the footage is someone that's dead. They're not moving, whereas she's obviously having a bad time.
yeah, I know. And I think Signal 30 used actual sounds of the dead people, but weren't actually using actual footage of it. I can't remember, but this was, yeah, it's a terrible thing. Like I kind of like, had I known, I don't think I would have picked it. I think
Well,
I got more than I was
I
looking
I
for.
I got to put it on the record that you suggested it.
Yeah, I know. I'm right now. I'm saying like if I'd known, I think, uh, yeah, I didn't realize that it was going to be real. But like you said, by 71, this was near the end of like that golden era of the safety film and whatnot. So this is really when they became a little more influenced by verite, right?
Yeah, and this film
So
was, made to intentionally be traumatizing. This film is supposed to traumatize you because they're showing it to you in driver's ed to make you shit yourself.
yeah. So, but just imagine, by the time Faces of Death came out, which is the middle 80s, um, this thing had existed for over a decade. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of mind blowing.
Oh, I like this note. I wrote, "This is how Eric Clapton died." Down at the crossroads. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a, and I have to say they don't show like heads and arms and stuff like that, like missing. It could have been a lot more gruesome. I do believe in the camera people sometimes are like, oh, there's no way. I can't even like look at it, let alone film it.
Yeah, the bodies were more or less intact, I suppose. But when you need a jaws of life, it's still a pretty bad news time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one where the guys pinned the wheel of the car is kind of behind his head and it's pushed his chin to his chest in a very like unnatural, definitely dead neck broken position. And when
Mm.
they kind of like lift the car, his head just, it doesn't come off obviously, but it flops over and you're going like, oh, I wanted so bad for it to be fake, but there's
See,
no way.
see, my brain does fortunately like tend to excise that footage. This happened with Signal 30 as well, whereas like I don't really specifically remember so many images. Shake hands with danger, accident report. Yeah, I remember all of that, but
Was
it's
Shake
a
Hands with Danger real?
no.
Okay, I'm trying to remember, well, it's because how you mentioned it in the context. I was like, wait.
Well, my point is, those are, what those films are more like when we did Accident Report, also where it's all staged, and it's that's more like watching a Final Destination movie, right?
Yeah, which
Because
I
those,
love, by the way.
Yeah, because
I've
those
done
movies.
a podcast on hallucination.
I do have to read the song titles that I got out of here. We got the Megadeth song, 17,000 people dying of excessive speed. That's good for your hair metal song. And taken ahead in time to the end of your life. That's more like a Hawkwind song, I think.
Read the description though that you put of the Hawkwind. There was a little more detail there.
Oh, see, I have to scroll over then. This is more like a Hawkwind song after Lemmy snorted too much coke.
You
Which
can
is
see it, that title though on the back of a tour T-shirt though.
yeah, that's probably every Hawkwind song while he was in the band, but whatever.
Be more specific, man. Yeah, but this is more than I bargained for, I have to admit. If you are listening to this and you've never seen one of these and you're like, if I'm gonna watch one, I'm gonna watch like the worst. Where would you put this though? Because I imagine you've seen a few. Where would this go for you in terms of like the worst?
I'm pretty much gonna go with this is probably the worst so far.
I was sort of thinking if there's something worse than this, I would not like to see that.
Okay, there are some 60s ones. Actually, last night I almost sent you this message that I was going to replace this one today, but I was like, I already did the notes. I watched it only because I stumbled on a link of a driver's ed film directed by like Robert Altman in the 50s. So that'll get done, but I was like,
Yeah.
let's not last minute this time. And I thought you wanted the horrible, gory one, which is what you got. And I had the feeling that probably wasn't one. It was just, whoa, Robert Altman did that in the 50s?
No,
That's
and
trippy.
that's a point of interest too. And I would love to see that because I've seen a whole lot of Altman.
Yeah,
But
I'm hoping it's
as
like
far,
Nashville, but like the Nashville of safety videos.
maybe hopefully shorter than that. But this is I think for the rubbernecker. But also I think it'll be of interest to people that enjoy Mondo movies.
Mm.
Because Mondo is all based on or supposed real footage of things and stuff like that. And so this I think belongs in there to the point where I need to look up. I have a book called oh god, what is it called? The cannibal one is Meat is Murder. What is the snuff one called?
You
There's a
don't have all
book
your
that
books behind you today. Sorry.
oh, I don't. I could have just looked right behind me, but there was one called. There's one about snuff movies,
Yeah.
and snuff is of course something that is for profit and is made where you kill somebody on camera. It's a very specific definition of it, because like the evening news or the show Cops isn't considered snuff, or video of someone like a Bud Dwyer, for instance, shooting himself on camera. That's not considered snuff. But
Nick
this
Cage
is
makes some snuff films on 8mm.
yeah, oh, it's a good movie, man. It this to me though is as close as one's gonna get. Um, because I have seen Face of Death and it is super fake, super phony. There's maybe only one or two things that are taken from newsreel.
So
This is worse.
why is war footage not a snuff film then? Because now it's
Exactly.
condoned. It's you can murder
Yeah.
people in this case. It's fine.
No, it's footage of something else going on. It's not for profit, So
Yeah.
Snuff is well, there's that movie the Finleys made called Snuff, and at the end, it was supposedly a real snuff movie scene that you're about to see, but it was of course totally fake, and they used it to sell the movie. But anyone would get arrested if they tried to do the real thing.
No,
So
I'm
the
just sitting
official
here
word is
thinking you turn on the History Channel, which I don't know what they show now, but there was a point where it was like all World War II documentaries, and technically you're getting a whole lot of snuff films there. But that's okay. That's just sorry, that's just a weird thought to think about.
no, it's true though. But that's the way that book is. Man, Killing for Culture. That's the name of the book. Killing for Culture. It is by Creation Books. They have a lot of really great ones, but
Since you jump back 3 minutes, I'm just gonna say that I was sitting there while you were on something thinking about recasting Brewster McCloud as like a safety flying video. That'd be cool. How to fly safely.
yeah, and cut to footage of Bud Cort dead and Harold and Maude.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
He played Brewster McCloud.
Yeah,
But yeah, no,
this is a non-linear podcast today.
that's fine. We can go on tangents. It's your show. I think final word is, yeah, this is precursor to Faces of Death. The intent was different, but it is worse. And yeah, there should be like, are you sure you want to see this before you please? I don't know what's the official word.
Well, again, this was meant to traumatize people in a driver's ed classroom where Faces of Death was supposed to play at like a sausage party of a bunch of mouth breathers, right?
I mean, it was marketed toward horror fans. I mean, look at those covers. It's like the snake and the Grim Reaper. It looked like something you'd see on the side of a van or an airbrush T-shirt. It was it was marketed toward the era of gore effects in horror.
This one's clearly marketed to. So you have a DUI now.
Yeah,
watch this. You probably deserve to watch this if you have a DUI anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say the idea is scared straight. That's the best I can do is say that it was meant to shake people up. And as the casual viewer who just was watching this for a podcast, gotta say, this kicked my ass.
I don't deserve to be watching this.
Yeah, I was like, why did I do this? I was really like, I don't regret it because I enjoy this discussion. And I think people who are curious about these things want to hear what's in it. What do they show? Dead people, man, in cars, dead. There's a child, I think, shown dead. It was rough. It really was.
I only drive like 1 day a week. I have the law of averages in my favor.
I always had the same feeling when I've gone on like a long day trip or whatever, and I come back and I'm finally about to go to sleep, and I think, wow, I could have easily died. Like, I just think that. I'm like, man, I was really on a lot of highways. I could have bit it at any time.
I feel like I just heard you plug your stuff, but that was a different podcast, so you should do that again.
Yeah, okay, so we have in the past done a lot of fake gore, some head smashes, some heart rips, things like that. But I think the best special effect we've done in Gonzorific movies is the vampire that bites the person's ass because they're getting a lap dance, and then the person that performed the lap dance, their ass turns into a vampire. That was one of our best effects. That one's in a movie called Lap Dance at the Gates of Hell. That can be found on a compilation called, which mixtape is that on?
That's the name of it.
It might, go to gonzorific.com, GONZORIFFIC. It's on one of the mixtapes.
Whereas and the Gonzorific promise, we do not get up at 3 a.m. to film car crashes.
Shit, no, absolutely not. You and I were in a car crash in one of the movies, but it was super fake.
The car wasn't even moving.
No, we got attacked by dolls.
That's fun. This one is Aural Hygiene Pod at Facebook, Twitter, and I made some clicking noises. I got some new music. That's at rovingsagemedia.bandcamp.com, and that's what I'm going to throw in your direction today. So,
all right.
Apparently, since I don't edit these, we already know, but I got to go to the denta to get my teeth cleaned.
Well, yeah, I hope you don't end up seeing Corbin Burnson.
Oh, you don't Japanese? Sorry, the people don't know this. Japanese dentist visits. You have to go like 3 or 4 times. The first time they check your teeth. The second time you go a week later. Then they clean like your bottom teeth, and then you go like a week later, and then they clean your top teeth, and then you go like one more time for some reason. But I usually forget about that one and don't go. It's like a month-long process of going to the dentist.
That would give you more time to get you the money together for a dental visit.
Well, it's like $5 each time. It's because
my cleanings are free, but I just mean like, for dental stuff, that would actually make more sense to spread them out to get the bread together.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. Okay, off to the dentist then. Keep it
Right.
reals.